Man, I hope somebody out there is willing to take on the optimist role tonight, because I simply do not have it in me. After that Kings performance, yes, Sacramento technically defeated the Memphis Grizzlies 103-94 tonight, but I'm not feeling good at all about that Kings performance. In fact, there's very little to feel good about with the way the Kings played. We'll break it all down right here on Locked On Kings.
You are Locked On Kings, your daily Sacramento Kings podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, it is that time for another episode of Locked On Kings.
Hello and welcome into Locked On Kings, your podcast hub for Sacramento Kings coverage all season long. My name is Matt George. I have the privilege of being your host here. I'm a Sacramento sports anchor and reporter for ABC 10 News. A win is a win, Matt. Come on. I know it was ugly. It wasn't the way the Kings wanted to win, but in the end, the Kings got the victory. They're 3-0 on this road trip. They've won 4 straight. Surely you can be happier than you are about what we just watched. I'm trying. I really am. I'm struggling to. I watched every second of that Kings game, and even with the result that the Kings got, even with the Kings finding a way to win that game that they absolutely should have against a shorthanded, is putting it lightly, for the Memphis Grizzlies tonight, even after all that, I wish I had all of that time back. I wish this was an off night for the Sacramento Kings, truth be told, because I do not feel good at all about this win. It's hard to feel good about much from this win, with the exception of Sabonis putting up the monster numbers that he put up. And we'll get to that in a little bit. But even after a victory, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to speak my mind. I'm going to speak my heart. I'm going to speak how I feel, how I know a lot of you Kings fans feel. And I guess I drew the short straw tonight, because I'm looking at social media. I'm looking at Kings Twitter, who more often than not leans sometimes pessimistic when I'm typically leaning optimistic. Well, in true Matt George, I guess, contrarian fashion, even with that bad loss and Kings fans even with that bad win and Kings fans acknowledging that the Kings did not play well, they're still able to look at it, accept the win, and move on. Me, I'm just having a hard time with it, man. I'm having a hard time with the fact that the Kings played that poorly and struggled that mightily against the Memphis Grizzlies team that was missing 11 players. 11 players listed on their injury report. The Grizzlies only had 8 guys available. 3 of them were two-way guys. One of those two-way guys started. Now, that's not the most absurd thing in the world, considering the Kings have a player in Keon Ellis who's a two-way guy who got opportunity starting earlier this season and has played well for Sacramento. So just because you're a two-way contract player does not mean that you're not capable of carving out an NBA career for yourself. And I also want to fully acknowledge and give credit to the Memphis Grizzlies players. A lot of these young guys who are kind of hovering in between NBA and G League and trying to carve out their spot, they got an opportunity tonight. And the one thing that shouldn't have caught the Kings or Kings fans by surprise is that those guys were going to play hard and make the absolute most of their opportunity, because they don't know if they're ever going to have this good of an opportunity or any opportunity ever again. So I give credit to the Grizzlies players. I expected them to come out with energy. I expected them to play fearless. They have literally nothing to lose. That being said, even though a team can play that way, play free, expectations should still be that the Sacramento Kings, who are a roster that is expected to minimum make it to the playoffs, has hopes and internal expectations to make a deep playoff run, is trying to build and establish habits to turn this into a championship team eventually. A team like that, coming into the game, is expected to perform better than the Kings performed, is expected to control what they can control a lot better than what the Kings controlled tonight, and is expected to win this game more comfortably than they did. Again, in the grand scheme of things, and at the end of the podcast, we'll look at 10,000 feet up, look at this game and recognize it's just another win. When we wake up tomorrow morning, the context really won't matter, other than the fact that the Kings won this game and they can leave Memphis and forget about what happened and just move on, right? And that's a lot easier to do after a win than a bad loss. I acknowledge that. Before tonight, less than an hour after the Kings just performed the way that they performed, I'm not feeling good. Not feeling good. Jaren Jackson Jr. plays 32 minutes a night. He was the guy from Memphis with everybody else being out. The next closest player in minutes per game is Santi Aldama with 23 minutes a night. The Grizzlies had a player named Matthew Hurt who played his first ever NBA game tonight. So this is a roster constructed of two-way players, one or two, maybe three typical rotation players, or let's say two typical rotation players, one established starter and defensive player of the year in Jaren Jackson Jr. And then the rest of this roster is G League players or players that are trying to prove that they're better than the G League and they belong in the NBA. That is the roster that Sacramento struggled so mightily against tonight. And I understand those guys are still NBA players comment, right? I've made that comment here on the Locked On Kings podcast. Anybody the Sacramento Kings are playing, they are NBA caliber players. They are good enough to have made it to this level. But again, expectations are and should be that Sacramento performs way better than they did tonight against that level of competition. I'm not trying to be disrespectful to the Grizzlies. This is the reality of where the Kings are at and should be at. And truth be told, I'm less pissed about the fact that the Kings were down by 15 points at one point to this Grizzlies team. I'm less pissed that they barely managed to beat this Grizzlies team. I'm more pissed by the fact that Sacramento had 19 turnovers. It wasn't that the Memphis Grizzlies came in and forced the Sacramento Kings to turn the ball over. It wasn't that the Memphis Grizzlies came in and put a tremendous amount of pressure on this Kings team. Sacramento came in and continuously shot themselves in the foot, and it started at the top. 19 turnovers. That, to me, illustrates a complete lack of focus coming into this game. That is what bothers me more. That is the problem that I have. Not that you played a tough game on the road against a shorthanded team. It's the fact that you came in against that shorthanded team and did not take the game as seriously as you should have. Because if you did, you would have played a million times better than they played tonight. You certainly wouldn't have turned the ball over 19 times. Keegan Murray, 4 turnovers. De'Aaron Fox, 3 turnovers. Domantas Sabonis, 3 turnovers. Malik Monk, 3 turnovers. 13 of your 19 turnovers coming from your core 4, your leaders. Coming into a game as established, not just NBA starting caliber talent, but as stars, at least 2 of the 4 of them, stars in this league. And I understand that De'Aaron Fox led the Kings in scoring and played well in the fourth quarter to help the Kings secure this win. I understand that Domantas Sabonis tied a franchise record for rebounds in a game. I saw the numbers that they put up, but at the same time, those numbers mean less to me than these turnover numbers. Because, again, these turnovers to me are a reflection of how the Kings did not take this game seriously enough. They were not as focused as they need to be. And that is a problem that isn't reflective of this Kings team. That is a problem that is reflective of this organization over the 16-year playoff drought that we all went through, right? For some reason, this roster is loaded with players that had nothing to do with that drought whatsoever. The majority of this roster, including coaching staff, has only known to winning here in Sacramento, really with the exception of De'Aaron Fox and Harrison Barnes. Maybe Davion Mitchell to some extent. Other than that, this is a roster of guys that as soon as they started to show up to Sacramento, this Kings team has been winning basketball games. It's been the beam. It's been playoffs. It's been fun. It's been one of the most exciting teams in the NBA. And yet, that team that had nothing to do with the playoff drought continues to carry out the most Kings tradition ever of playing poorly against short-handed teams. The only explanation that I can come up with is that it's a lack of focus. It's a lack of intensity. This Kings team comes into games against teams that they know they should be beating because, you look at the rosters and you say, yes, on paper, eye test, the Kings should dominate this performance. They walk in and they allow that way of thinking to dictate the way that they play basketball, and it doesn't matter what the other team does because the Sacramento Kings, they're turning the ball over 19 times because they're not taking it seriously enough themselves. They are not just disrespecting their opponents, they're disrespecting the game. They're disrespecting how they are supposed to play, how they are capable of playing. 19 turnovers to me is frustrating. It's absolutely unacceptable. And you know what's also unacceptable? And I love Malik Monk. I love the chaotic energy that he brings. I love how flashy and fun Malik Monk is. Malik brings so much good to this Kings team and has so many awesome moments that more often than not, I'm willing to forgive it. But tonight, when you're down by, I think, 2 points in the fourth quarter in a game where at that point the Kings had already turned the ball over like 16 or 17 times, for the Kings to be getting out in fast break opportunities, trying to have an opportunity to salvage something from this game and avoid a totally embarrassing loss, you have Malik Monk who's doing these flashy dribbles and flashy passes and nearly turning the ball over. That is a reflection of how unseriously the Kings took this game to me. That is what's unacceptable to me, not the fact that they only beat this shorthanded Grizzlies team by 9 points. It was what Sacramento did to themselves. It was how Sacramento played. Again, credit to the Grizzlies. They fielded a roster of 8 guys who came out, play hard, and pushed Sacramento. That's really all you can ask for if you're a Grizzlies fan. And in many ways, should have won this game. I thought the Kings played poorly enough that they deserved to lose a lot of the time. Now, they ended up finding a way to win. Yes, a win is a win. Great. I guess we should feel good about that. And again, tomorrow we'll wake up and all the context will be gone and it'll be a Kings victory and we can move on. It's good for good teams to win ugly games. Good teams will typically win ugly games. But it's the caliber of ugliness. It's not ugly because a Memphis Grizzlies team overperformed and pushed you to your limits. It's ugly because you, as a Kings team, played far below what you're capable of playing and made mistakes that you simply should not be making at this point. And it wasn't 2 or 3. It was 19 of them. Bad passes, slow rotations, bad decision-making, unnecessary lack of seriousness on flashy plays for no reason. I just was not happy. Not happy with what I saw. Honestly, like it makes me think of, you remember Draymond Green? When he talked about in an interview, I don't remember where the interview was, but Draymond Green talked about how it's hard for teams to, or it's hard to get up and play and get excited to play bad teams in the NBA, right? That's difficult to do. And I think he mentioned the Sacramento Kings as one of those bad teams at the time. Remember how we reacted to that? Remember how disgusted we were? Oh my God, Draymond, you can't say it. Why are you saying that? You know what? You think we're the bad team? Go ahead, man. Treat us like that. Oh, it's hard for you to get up and play against. Remember how Sacramento reacted to that. Now imagine if you heard the Kings say the same thing. Imagine if you heard De'Aaron Fox or Malik Monk or somebody tonight say, yeah, it was hard to get up and play against that Grizzlies team. It's hard to get up and get excited and to get ready to play against that Grizzlies team. How the hell would you feel? One, I think that mindset by Draymond Green is stupid and gross, and I don't want that anywhere near the Sacramento Kings mindset, number one. Number two is, at least Draymond Green has victories and championships, whether he was carried there by Steph Curry or not. At least he has the success behind it to have that mindset. Even if I disagree with it, to some extent, he's earned it, I guess. Sacramento has done nothing to feel that way. One season after finally making the playoffs and losing in the first round. So I hope to God that there's nobody in that locker room that said, yeah, it was hard to get up to play against that Grizzlies team tonight. Because, I mean, look at that roster. It's hard to get up and get excited to play against them. I hope no one's going to say that. I don't think anyone is going to say that. And I certainly hope nobody is thinking that. Because if they are, we got a problem. Today's episode of the Locked On Kings podcast is brought to you by Sack Yard Community Tap House. Sack Yard is an amazing local place for you to go here in Sacramento, a place for you to spend time with your friends, spend time with your family, grab a beer after work, celebrate some kind of event, whether it's a work-related event, a birthday party, whatever it may be. Taste all of their amazing beers that they have on tap, as well as some local wines for you to try. They have live music out there all the time. They're involved in so many different community events. And on top of that, They have an amazing outdoor patio that's perfect year-round, right? The weather right now in Sacramento has been superb randomly. It's going to start getting cold and rainy a little bit again. But regardless, during the wintertime, Sacyard has fire pits out there to keep you nice and toasty. During the summertime, when it's hot, they have misters out there. They have lawn games for you to play and enjoy, plus a great indoor seating area with plenty of TVs. It's a great place for you to watch Sacramento Kings games. If you're looking for a place to watch the games over the remainder of this long road trip, check out Sacyard. And also make sure you let them know that Locked On Kings sent you, because you'll get 10% off of your tab. Also, Locked On Kings will be hosting our second ever Kings watch party. Kings versus Suns. I believe it's February 13th, 2 days after the Super Bowl. It's a Tuesday night. Join me at Sacyard. We'll watch the Kings hopefully get revenge over the Phoenix Suns together. Sacyard is your official home of the Locked On Kings listener. Today's episode of the Locked On Kings podcast is also brought to you by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. That's what brings home the winning trophy, and it's also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance, from superchargers to roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay's Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time, or you get your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not burning cash. And with all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. His 3 turnovers weren't acceptable, but let's talk about the main bright spot for the Kings tonight. And I'm talking about Sabonis. 20 points, 10 of 11 shooting from the field, 26 rebounds, and 5 assists. It is his 28th straight double-double. His 9th 20-20 game, meaning 20 points and 20 of another stat, or in this case rebounds, 9th 20-20 game of his career. And with those 26 rebounds, he ties Chris Webber for the Kings franchise record. I also think he had 17 rebounds at halftime, if I'm not mistaken, which is the most in a half in the NBA this season. He had his double-double like 11 minutes into this game, or at least 11 minutes of his playing time into this game or something like that. I mean, Sabonis, one of the things the Kings did really, really well tonight is they dominated the glass, which absolutely they should. Of course, neither team didn't shoot the ball too well. Like Sacramento's three-point shooting in this game was terrible. He did have a decent amount of offensive rebounds. Of course, most of these rebounds were defensive. It's nice to see Sabonis dominate when Steven Adams is out and Jaren Jackson Jr., who is a decent rebounder and a decent big. He's not exactly someone who should be rivaling Sabonis for the amount of boards that Sabonis brings down. So it was good to see Domas dominate, and the Kings dominate in an area where they absolutely were supposed to. Doesn't excuse the self-inflicted errors, doesn't exclude the poor shooting, doesn't exclude all the turnovers and the overall effort. But they did a good job in that sense, and I'll give them credit for that. And Sabonis, I mean, I hope you had him on your fantasy team or you took him in PrizePicks tonight or whatever, because 26 rebounds in a game is absolutely nuts. All right, let's talk about challenges really quick. Coaches' challenges. Mike Brown decided to challenge an out-of-bounds call 49 seconds into the game. He lost that challenge. Now, challenges are still relatively new. This is the first year that they implemented, if you win your first challenge, you'll get a second challenge. And maybe Mike felt that the call was so egregiously wrong that he was guaranteed to win the challenge. Honestly, if you're going to take a challenge that early in a game, you better be 100% certain that you're going to win that challenge. Lo and behold, Mike Brown lost it. Therefore, he lost his challenge for the remainder of the game. Imagine if Sabonis had gotten into massive foul trouble, which I think he's 3rd in the league in foul outs this season. So he's gotten into foul trouble many, many times before. Imagine if there was a crucial call down the stretch that cost the Kings this game, or could have cost the Kings this game. Not having your challenge there because you decided 48 seconds into the game, or 49 seconds into the game, that you were going to challenge a relatively meaningless out-of-bounds call. I question that decision by Mike Brown. Mike's challenge record has to be the worst in the league. I don't have it in front of me. I looked for it. I tried to find it. Could not find it. It is not good. It has to be, if it's not the worst in the league, it's got to be bottom 3. Now, that doesn't necessarily matter too much because remember Luke Walton and how much Luke Walton struggled to actually win basketball games here in Sacramento? Luke Walton was a master at challenges. It felt like Luke Walton always won challenges. Mike Brown, not so much, but he wins basketball games and he helped lead this team back to the playoffs. So I guess that's something that we can live with. I just want to know, though, a lot of coaches, when they go and decide to challenge a call, they turn towards the back of their bench, the rest of their assistants who are back there supposedly watching monitors and watching the game and everything. And they're the ones that are telling you, yeah, challenge this. In the same way, you'll have guys in an NFL stadium, like whether it's your offensive coordinator or your coaches that are up in the box that have a better view or have the screen in front of them that'll look at it and say, oh, yeah, throw the challenge flag on that play. We think we have a good shot. Somebody is advising Mike Brown, or some buddies are advising Mike Brown really, really poorly, because this man does not win challenges. And I don't know. Now, Mike has said in the past, Mike has admitted that there have been times where he's made emotional challenges. He came out earlier this season in the press conference, and the first thing he said was, I'd like to apologize for the stupidest challenge, or something along those lines. He said, one of the dumbest challenges you will ever see. And he said it was an emotional challenge. He looked at it and he didn't listen to his coaches or didn't even ask his coaches. He just decided, I'm going to challenge it because I'm emotionally invested in this bad call, or I don't care, I'm just challenging it. And he got it wrong. Mike is the guy that when he's the unanimous coach of the year is going to deflect away from himself and give credit to his players and get credit to his coaching staff and even give credit to the training staff. In the same sense, Mike is the guy that will never throw anybody on the bench behind him or anybody who's telling him to challenge calls under the bus. He's not going to tell us, yeah, that was Luke Lautz's fault or Doug Christie's fault or something like that. He's never going to do something like that. That being said, I don't need to know who the guy or guys are or girl or whoever. I don't need to know who it is that's telling him to challenge and getting it wrong so many times. I just need Mike Brown to know that maybe you stop listening to that person as much as you're listening to him. Or control your emotions, Mike. Don't throw or don't challenge a call 49 seconds into a game unless you are 100% absolutely sure that you're going to win that challenge. Compared to the 19 turnovers, this is something small to complain about, but I didn't feel like talking about anything more positive than that Domantas Sabonis performance, so here we are. Today's episode of the Locked On Kings podcast is also brought to you by FanDuel. Happy Super Bowl to all who celebrate, especially you San Francisco 49ers fans out there. And happy Super Bowl from FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. If you're like me, Super Bowl Sunday is all about scoring the best seat on the couch. In my case, I'm going to be looking for the best seat possible, covering the game in Las Vegas. Very excited to cover my first ever Super Bowl. But FanDuel is going to help bring that game to you on an even deeper level, right? We enjoy the commercials, we enjoy the food, we enjoy the action. How about you enjoy making some money in addition to all of that? FanDuel has so many ways for you to end the season with a W or 2 or 3. New customers can join today and you'll get $200 in bonus bets if your first bet of $5 or more wins. So bet $5 on anything. It could be a prop bet for the Super Bowl. It could be something involving the Sacramento Kings. Pick something. Bet $5. If you win, here's $200 in bonus bets on top of the money you've already won. That's $200 for you to play on Super Bowl Sunday or any day that you want to. There's so many amazing ways to play FanDuel. For example, with the Super Bowl, you can bet on like which players are going to score a touchdown, how many points will be scored, prop bets, like who's going to win the coin toss. There's so many fun ways to play on FanDuel. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon. Sign up right now. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NFL. And this episode of the Locked On Kings podcast is brought to you by an all-new sponsor called Quiiiz. Quiiiz with 3 I's is the next generation trivia experience. It's also the world's first platform where you can earn money playing knowledge games. And Locked On Kings fans, they've created an NBA quiz game where you can test your knowledge and win real cash. You can play with friends or other fans and let your knowledge shine all the way to the bank. And you can play without downloading anything. It's not an app. You just go to app.quiiiz, Quiiiz.com, and start playing today. NBA Quiiiz is the ultimate knowledge challenge for fans that live and breathe basketball. Go to app.quiiiz Quiiiz, Quiiiz.com, and test your knowledge and win cash today. That's Quiiiz with 3 eyes, just like a three-pointer. Play now, showcase your skills, and take home cash prizes. App.quiiiz.com, where fans become champions. All right, I got my rant. I got my frustrations out of the way. Maybe that was a bit therapeutic for me. I don't know if you feel the same way. I don't know if you want to inject me with a dose of optimism. You know what? I will accept it. I will take it. Give me your optimism. Give me your positivity from this game. I'm not vibing with it tonight, but you know me. I'm not going to be fake. I'm going to be authentic to how I'm feeling about a game or about this team at any point in time. In the grand scheme of things, the vibes have been better. Right? The Kings are on a 4-game win streak. They've started this road trip off 3-0 with 4 more games remaining. In the grand scheme of things, the Kings are in a really, really good spot. They're 27-18, 9 games over 500 on the season. They're in the 5th seed right now when they were just in the play-in picture not too long ago. They're 5 games back of first, 4.5 games ahead of the 10th and final play-in spot. So they're firmly in the middle. They're in a good spot. And compared to last year, the Kings were 27-21 at this point last season. So they have fewer losses, same amount of wins. Overall, the Kings are fine, right? There's nothing about tonight to be overcritical about or overreact to. And I say that knowing that I probably was maybe a little too overcritical about the turnovers and some things tonight. But, you know, I guess I can live with that. Watch this or listen to this back tomorrow and feel like an idiot when I look at it that way. But if you want to share just how you're feeling, if you're feeling good, if you're feeling like me, if you want to talk about it, let's talk about it. Hit me up on Twitter, @MattGeorgeSack. Email me, mattgeorgesports@gmail.com, or feel free to leave your thoughts and comments in the YouTube comment section down below. I know for sure a performance like this is not going to cut it more often than not. And hopefully, whether it was a wake-up call tonight for the Kings, or hopefully if they just got a game like this out of their system and they'll be good for Miami and the remainder of this road trip coming up. If that's the case, great. They have a day off in between. I think they're spending that day in Miami and a night in Miami, so hopefully the Miami flu doesn't come and get this Kings team, if you know what I'm talking about. A little extra time on the nightlife and maybe not enough sleep and not enough preparation for a game. Hopefully Sacramento is mature enough to overcome that. Not saying that they can't enjoy themselves a little bit in Miami. Just make sure you're enjoying yourselves the night before a win, and when you're leaving Miami, you're feeling even extra good after getting that W over the Heat. We'll see how the Sacramento Kings do. Of course, we'll be back for a Locked On Kings podcast after that game, plus more great content coming for you over the remainder of this road trip. Like I mentioned in the FanDuel read, I am going to be going to Las Vegas to cover the Super Bowl. Of course, that's not this week. That's next week. Yeah, the Kings will be playing games over that time. I will be doing my best to keep track of all the Kings action, too. As usual, I'll be hosting Locked On Kings podcasts from Las Vegas. So it's going to be fun, and I hope you will come along with me. You 49ers fans out there, you would deserve to be celebrating right now. That was a crazy comeback win over the Detroit Lions. And, of course, if you're looking for your full 49ers coverage and talk to help pass the time over this Pro Bowl week and the build-up to the actual Super Bowl itself, 2 Sundays, or I guess, 2 Sundays from now, or you know what I mean, the second Sunday from now, Locked On 49ers. Check them out. Brian and Eric, they do a phenomenal job over there. They will get you ready for this game. Also, if you want to get the Chiefs perspective too, Locked On Chiefs has you covered over there as well. So check them out. Appreciate you listening here to the Locked On Kings podcast. Can't wait to have you join me on the next episode. Until then, you've been listening to Locked On Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network.